made a bit of a breakthrough there, just BC, but it got that information got lost, and so it didn't come to much. But the Earth is flat is today an irrational belief. I was going to say false. It isn't actually necessarily, although we're awfully confident that it is. But it is an irrational belief. Why? Because a mountain of evidence contradicts the statement, the Earth is flat. Huge amount of evidence, including eyewitness observation from astronauts. Although I suppose that only makes it a disk. But nonetheless, it's in the ballpark too. That's an irrational belief. It violates the evidence. Bad, actually. And a person who held that belief, in spite of the evidence, well, if they held it without knowing what the evidence is, then they would be ignorant. A person who held it in spite of all the evidence, who knew the evidence and held it anyway, would be, what, perverse or stubborn. Something. Irrational. Yeah, irrational. It's an irrational belief. When atheists refer to religious belief as irrational belief, what we're saying is it doesn't meet the standard of evidence. Okay? It doesn't meet an adequate standard of evidence. And generally speaking, we are confident that we can demonstrate that to be true, given enough time and sufficient intelligence on the part of our respondent, or the person with whom we're having the conversation or the dialogue. Can it be proved, in the sense of the Pythagorean theorem, that the tenets of the Christian faith are erroneous? No, it can't be proved. What can be demonstrated is that they don't meet any reasonable standard of evidence that can be demonstrated, despite the protestations otherwise. Now, from Christians, say, and by the way, I'm not picking on Christianity. That applies to all religions. All religions. They don't meet the standard of evidence. That doesn't necessarily make the tenets of the Christian faith false. Okay? Our evidence could be inadequate, misleading, any number of things, but it is still, to say Jesus rose from the dead is an irrational belief. It's not rational. It doesn't fit the standards of good evidence. Okay? To say that the earth was created in 6 days, and on the 4th day, or whichever one it was, God created life and human beings. Okay? That's an irrational belief. We have significant body of evidence that shows that to be false, shows it to be incorrect, and simply an inadequate explanation of how life came to be here, and specifically how our lives came to be here, human beings, our species. It's not an adequate explanation. Okay? That is not to say that the evolutionary theory has answered every possible question about the matter, but it does provide a coherent explanation of our being here, and it isn't refuted by any significant evidence at all. So it's rational. Irrational belief is that which is not supported by adequate evidence, or, frankly, contradicts the evidence that we have. This is the nature of rational belief or irrational belief. It's nothing more or less than that. Finally, each one of us at some point of our lives makes the decision to live in accord with the evidence, or we make the decision to try to ignore that and fudge it and get around it and hold on to some beliefs that aren't supported by evidence, or that are flatly contradictory to evidence. Which way we go seems to depend on all kinds of factors, none of them terribly rational. Although the final argument for either point does have marked elements of reasonableness or lack thereof. So, that's my take on rational belief. I wish you well in your dialogue with Clark, J.D. Clark, I think he is. Yes, I believe so. And I'll continue to follow some of your videos with interest. Thanks a lot.